about your early life there and your brothers and sisters? Why don't you tell us a little bit about each one of your brothers and sisters? And
well, just ready to say this home. We lived in the back of the creamery the first winter, and I don't know just when Father did build this new home, but not far away he built a new frame home. And this is the one where my brother Smith was born. And shortly after my brother was born, a man by the name of Layton, who owned the village store, wanted to come back to Utah. And he wanted to sell his store. So Father bought his store. And that meant then we wanted to move up close to the store because a house was right next door to the store that was owned by Mr. Layton. And he wanted to sell both the house and the store. So we rented this new house that Father had pretty well finished building. And we went up and lived by the store, and that was quite a large log house. And we hadn't lived there very long until the people who rented our new home that was being built, the woman had some grease that she was trying out in the oven, and she had the unfortunate experience opening the oven door, and a flame that burst into flames and burned that house to the ground.
wow.
But anyway, we lived up by the store until I was 11 years old.
How many people in Mountain View?
There was a little over 500 people in our ward.
Is there? How big an area did it cover? It must have covered.
Mountain View at that time was a bigger town than it is today.
Huh.
More people living on the town side. But most of them lived on ranches.
Today, I think there's a service station and a store.
This was a dairy country and a cattle country.
Yeah.
And most of the people lived on the land. But the store was the gathering place for people, because that's where they all came to shop. And where they all came to get their mail. The post office was in the store. So Father ran both of them.
That must have been fun having your father do all that.
Yes, it was. We always had hard help. Now, I always made it a point of being on the good side of the hard help, so I could help myself with the candy buckets.
There's a story about this story with that Indian fellow that is one of my favorite stories.
Which one's
Do you remember that story about some old feather or red feather or blue feather or something? Something
Old
about
yellow
the Book of Mormon?
face. Old yellow
Oh, yellow
face.
face. Okay, I'll tell you about that. Well, I don't just remember exactly how old I was, but possibly 7 or 8 years old. Thanks, John. That's good. And we had Indians who lived not on a reservation not too far from Mountain View. In fact, they're right across the road from Cardston. That was the Blood tribe. But one fall, there came a new tribe of Indians into our area that we'd never seen before, and they were Crees. And they had come down what they called the Old Indian Trail, from way up in that country between Edmonton and Calgary. And they had followed this Old Indian Trail and had come down to our country. And I remember when I first saw them, I was really amazed because I'd never seen Indians that looked like that before. The Blood Indians are short and stocky and look like Indians.
Like the Utes.
But the Cree Indians were tall, and their skins were much fairer. And they were really good looking. They had features more like the white people. And the chief of their tribe was called Old Yellowface, and I could see why. And I was always fascinated by him because of his costume, I mean his clothing. He wore a buckskin, I remember a buckskin coat. It was very attractive, all fringed, like you've seen them. Mm-hmm. And on his head, he had something that absolutely amazed me when I was a child. It was a wolf skin.
Really?
Yes, a wolf skin.
With the nose of the wolf?
Made it, no, they cut the head off the wolf and made the skin into a round cap, but they left the tail on, and the tail hung down his back and reached almost to his waist. And I was always fascinated by him.
Was his skin kind of yellowish?
Yes,
really?
his skin was definitely yellow. And they had come and asked the privilege of spending the winter up on the Belly River, which was about, 3 or 4 miles west of Mountain View. And it seems that I didn't know this at the time, but it seems that this is the story connected with that tribe. They were living they were living in Saskatchewan. That's where the Cree's home is. And I may have forgotten some of the details of the story, but somehow or another, they were told that somewhere there was a record of their people, a written record of their people, which they'd never heard before. And they were told, the chief of the tribe was told that they would go south along the Old Indian Trail, and they would be brought to a people, and they would be given a sign so they'd know when they meet these people, that these were the people that had the book they were looking for. They would tell the history of their parents and their grandparents, their ancestors way back. So they came down to our area, and they were upon the Belly River, and they didn't want to stay all winter, but they had to get permission. So they went to to our bishop, and they asked if they could camp there all winter and fish and hunt. And Bishop Parker told them yes. He couldn't see any reason why they couldn't. The game was plentiful, the fishing was very good. Why, sure not. Why not let them fish and hunt? And so they stayed all winter and fished and hunted. And I can't remember just the circumstances connected with this, but old Yellowface was led, if I remember correctly, I hope I'm getting this somewhere near correct, was led to ask our bishop, who we were friendly with by now, if he'd ever heard of the history of the Indian people. He said, we know that somewhere there's a record of our people, and we're looking for it. That's what we come here for. And he said, have you ever heard of anything like that? And our bishop went and got the Book of Mormon. Now it seems that I forgot to tell you, this Yellowface, before he ever left his home up north, he told his mother one day, he said, Mother, I'm going to leave you, and I'll be gone 3 days. It will appear that I'm dead. He said, I'll lay in my bed for 3 days, but don't let them bury me. He said, in the end of 3 days, I'll come back into my body. And he said, then I'll tell you why this has happened. It was during this time that he was told about the book, and told to go south, and he would find the people that had this book.
Well, while he was while he was in the spirit.
Yes, and then right after he told his mother this, he passed away. He just passed right out. Well, the Indians are very superstitious. They don't want a dead body around at all.
Yeah.
They were determined to get him buried right quick. And his mother sat right there, and she wouldn't let him touch him. She said, nothing doing. She sat there for 3 days and 3 nights.
We kind of know the type of mother would do that.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Shotgun. Bear traps.
Keep her word.
Nobody's touching my boy!
At the end of 3 days, his spirit came back into his body. And that is when they soon took off to come south down the Old Indian Trail. So they got down there and were given permission by our bishop to spend the winter and fish and hunt. And in talking to our bishop, the Indian told our bishop that they were looking for this record, and asked the bishop if he'd ever heard of anything like that. Well, the bishop went and got the Book of Mormon and brought it and handed it to him. He said, that's the book, that's it. That's the book I saw when I was gone for 3 days. I showed him that when I was in the spirit world with our people. Because he said I was there with our forefathers for 3 days and talked to them, and they told me a lot. And they told me about this book. And that's what I've come to get, was this book. And of course, he was given the book. And they stayed there during the winter, but in the early spring, they were gone. They picked up and left. And I never heard any more about them, ever. Of course, someone in our area might have kept track of them. I don't know, but I was just a kid, and I wasn't particularly interested at that time, so I lost track of them.
Do you remember how they traveled? Did they travel with a travois?
Yes, they did, John.
Uh-huh.
They did. You bet they did.
What's a travel?
That's two poles
Poles.
that hooked onto the side of the horse, and then they can carry the old folks, or they can carry their burdens on this travois that drags behind
Yeah,
the horse.
I remember that definitely. But I was fascinated one time when I was in Centerville, living in Centerville, not too long ago, when President Espenshine came home from a mission. And he was the mission president up in that Calgary, Edmonton area. And one time he told us about the Cree Indians up there. And immediately I picked up my ears because I knew that's where they'd gone. And I asked him, I said, have any of those Crees ever joined the church? He said, yes. Many of them have joined the church. And I was really fascinated to hear that. But getting the Book of Mormon may have prepared them for that, see? But anyway, that's the story of Old Yellowface.
That's an interesting story, Mom.
Well, that story is recorded in the church archives. Because Brother Espenshine let me see it, let me read it. I read it. And I remembered all about it when I was a kid. And I hope I've told it very near exact. There may be a few things I'm not positive about. Some things of interest I may not have told you that may have slipped my mind, but that's in essence what was done.
Where could you find that story recorded in the church?
It'll be in the historian's department. You bet it's in there, sure.
Huh.
Anybody could go and get it and read it.